with those.
Beastmen! We have to help!
Right.
Before we get started, I'd love to give a huge thank you to the amazing folks over at Square Enix for providing me the game early in order to make this review possible. Thank you very much. So now with all that having been said, let's start the journey. The Adventures of Elliot the Millennium Tales is the latest HD 2D game to hit the scene, and it is developed and published by Square Enix. With Square being on generational run in a similar fashion to Capcom due to releasing banger after banger, they have now decided that it's time for another HD 2D styled game to keep that streak going. However, is this another one collected by the company? Or did they finally trip and fall after being on such a victorious run? Only one way to find out, so let's go. Gameplay. With the HD 2D craze not stopping anytime soon between games like Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default, the Dragon Quest remakes, and the much-hyped soon-to-be-released Final Fantasy Resonance being the first Final Fantasy game to be made in the HD 2D style, Square Enix decided that we needed even more games in the same style, which, honestly, can you blame them? However, I feel there is risk to be had constantly going this route as well, because if you do too many games too fast using the same art style, the novelty is going to wear off eventually, and you're going to oversaturate the market with games that start to feel exactly the same as all the rest of the HD 2D games. Which is pretty much what Ubisoft games became for a while in nearly every Call of Duty entry. It just got old fast. Luckily, Square so far has avoided this disaster, and while aesthetically sure, the games can kind of lean towards the look the same route, overall, what sets each apart from the other is their characters, world, and environments. All of which feel different and varied from one another, similar to how Bubsy 3D is totally different than the recent Bubsy 4 release. But in a good way? Seriously? Bubsy 4 is good? How the hell did that manage to happen? The odds of that happening are the same odds that say I have a shot at driving perfectly in a video game, so yeah, it's like 1 in a million.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
Confusion about Bubsy aside, is Adventures of Elliot even good? Well, yeah, for the most part it is. With the current storied history of Team Asano and their meticulously crafted HD 2D games, Elliot on paper had a major task laid in front of it, which is to live up to that same standard in both quality and structure, and make sure that traditional turn-based style for a JRPG works perfectly hand-in-hand synced with the HD 2D gameplay. How do they do this? Simple. You gotta match the same energy the past games brought you via smooth movement, dynamic mapping, team strategies, and newly recruited characters, and real-time combat that keeps things at an energizing pace for your entire playthrough without ever feeling like a chore. Simple, right? On paper, sure it is, but don't tell that to Star Fox Zero, which should have been a complete win, you know, on paper, but we all saw how that turned out, didn't we? By blending the usual style of retro sprites with gorgeous lighting techniques, particle effects for the battles and environment, and a more responsive camera, right from the get-go, it starts doing its job and living up to its HD 2D stature. As the player, you follow a young hero named Elliot, as he sets off in order to save Huther. Which, honestly, this place doesn't have a history of what you or I would call a good time, similar to people who own a PS5 Pro and have no games to play.
Got him! Got him!
Okay, relax, I'm just joking. PS5 Pros are gonna fly off the shelves once GTA 6 launches this holiday season. So that means that PS5 Pro players only have 5 months left of no games. Oh, got him again! Seriously though, that was my last joke on that, I swear. Just like GTA 6 will be your last game! As you traverse the world as Elliot, you will learn more about the storied history of Huther, as well as battle against nasty beastmen, and even magic-infused tech that aims to wipe you and everyone else off of the face of the earth and make it fall into complete ruin and despair. Luckily, in the time Elliot resides in and champions, a spell of safekeeping protects all who is under its spell within the city, which is conjured up and maintained by the mighty Princess Huria, who gained the power that was passed down to her due to royalty, similar to the way Zelda inherits her powers and abilities in the Legend of Zelda franchise. But just like in a lot of games lately, what do you think happens shortly after this? You already know, right? Obviously the spell screws up and starts weakening, thus giving enemies of the city reasons to want to attack it. Because this has never happened before, Elliot sets off to find out just what in the hell has happened, and in doing so, we get another classic trope that is extremely overused nowadays in RPGs, and it is of course having to deal with time travel. Oh, for the love of Doc Brown. Time travel again? I'm not gonna call it lazy, but come on, it's such a cop-out and cookie-cutter thing to do. Not everything has to include time travel to make the world feel more diverse, but whatever. While it annoys me something fierce, it still doesn't disrupt the game's overall fun factor that keeps you engaged, so they get a pass there. Honestly, this might be a Square Enix trope, because even their more modern 3D games are using the alternate timelines too, such as the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. So, someone at Square must have barely saw Back to the Future and are now obsessed with the concept. That's the only explanation I possibly have for this situation. As I mentioned previously, the game does share a similar theme as The Legend of Zelda, thanks to Princess Furia basically being this game's Zelda, and honestly from a gameplay-only perspective, Elliot in general draws a clear and extremely obvious inspiration from the Zelda series itself with its action-adventure RPG feel. I'm talking about the original Zelda game on Nintendo. We are not talking about the adventure of Link. Oh my god, no. Please wipe that game from existence and burn it with fire. By wielding a large arsenal of weapons, items, swords, spears, bows, and even boomerangs, combat never gets dull and strategy maintains its key place in each battle scenario you encounter, especially with the ability to dual equip items at any given time, further allowing players to play their own way and find different ways to experiment rather than just being stuck with one random weapon when it comes to combat. Using abilities, weapons, fairy companions, and other objects also gets you through the game's world too when utilized properly. So, you see where I'm going with this, right? All these things I'm naming, even down to the dang fairy companion, very much screams Zelda. Only these fairy companions don't scream every 5 seconds into your ear,
Hey! Listen! Watch out!
which is good, obviously, but still, it's something we're going to have to relive later this year when the Ocarina of Time remake releases. So I'm both hyped, but also terrified, and even dreading walking out onto Hyrule Field because of the horrors that await. Yeah, that's right, that damn owl that lurks that makes you repeat the same dialogue all over again should you mess up and keep pressing the no option. You better change that, Nintendo! Wait, on second thought, nope, don't change it. Let a new generation of kids feel my pain. I think they deserve it. Back on topic, using your weapons, you're able to bypass world obstacles like using bombs to destroy barriers and even hammers to clear objects and debris in your way. And pairing that with secret finding throughout the game also gives it a tad pinch of Metroidvania for good measure as well, which makes exploration, even in an HD 2D title, feel rewarding due to things you find can aid in your journey, like new accessories and even weapon upgrades, which is awesome. There's just so much to find and discover that beyond the main storyline itself, in the across time and across era jumping adventure, you might just find yourself exploring rather than trying to advance things further due to finding shrines in each era of the timeline you traverse in that can offer you anything from puzzles to solve, difficult boss fights, battle challenges, and revisitable locations that stay fresh, even on the occasional revisit should you choose to. The same thing holds true for side quests in the game, because come on now, did you really think that Square Enix of all people would create an RPG without side quests? Yeah, right! Side quests in the game are made easier to navigate thanks to the intuitive interface that gives more insights to other characters and their backstories, delves deeper into lore that could be crucial for understanding an event or person, or even tells you, bro, go explore more, stop being lazy. Well, I mean, not in those exact words, but close enough. There's just so much to do beyond the combat and the main story that it honestly feels like Square Enix's most content-heavy HD 2D game yet, and that's saying a lot considering how robust recent games have been. Overall, at the end of the day, The Adventures of Elliot the Millennium Tales ends up a fantastic time when all is said and done. Obviously, there can be downsides to it for people that are tired of the HD 2D gimmick and its aesthetic, or even side quests that can feel a bit repeaty due to the nature of them being fetch quests or time limited to complete. But even so, with Zelda-like RPG mechanics and weapons use, and world-changing capabilities, engaging combat, beautiful soundtrack, interesting characters and storyline that, while they may seem cliche on the surface, ends up being much more than you originally anticipated. Everything altogether just makes Elliot a fantastic experience and definitely a must-play for anyone looking for their RPG fix. So with all that having been said, my verdict is clear. Game & Chick says bye now.
Ugh.